evening and welcome. You're watching Times Now. I'm Sagarika Mitra. We're going to start this bulletin with a story that talks about India's aspirations and the steps that India is taking to become a sporting powerhouse. Now, viewers, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of hosting the Olympics and Paralympic Games in India in 2036 has taken a significant step forward. According to sources, the Indian Olympic Association has formally sent a letter of intent to Future Host Commission, International Olympic Committee on the 1st of October 2024, expressing India's intent to host the Olympics and Paralympic Games in the year 2036, which is 12 years from now. And now the monumental opportunity that could bring substantial benefits, fostering economic growth, social progress and youth empowerment across the country is going to be the step and the focus of the country. But at this point of time, as India makes this step, there's also a lot of politics happening around it. First up, let's go across to Karishma. Karishma, India and the Prime Minister has always spoken about how very soon India would, become a sporting powerhouse, and it would also be in a position to host the Olympics. And this is just the first step towards it. Take us through the details, especially when India has, in fact, written a letter expressing its intent. What more do we know about the message that has been sent?
Well, it's absolutely, Sagarika, and the intent comes from the fact how the sports person and sport in this country has been treated in the last few years. You see the facilities, whether it is to train for the Olympic Games in any corner of the world, it is allowed by the Mission Olympic Cell. The amount of money that is spent on these athletes for their training equipment, for their fitness, for their nutritional requirements, everything is taken care of. And it is this vision that PM Narendra Modi, of course, wants to take forward with hosting the Olympic and the Paralympic Games in 2036, and this has been in the works for the past year or so. First there were talks, but now the first significant step has been taken with the formal letter of intent being submitted to the Future Host Commission at the International Olympic Committee. PT Usha also had confirmed to us in October that this is being done, and that the International Olympic Committee and the Sports Ministry together are going to ensure that PM Modi's vision of 2036 Olympic Games and Paralympic Games comes to life. And sources have confirmed that IOA and Sports Ministry are very, very confident of their chances as far as the hosting of this game is concerned. What goes in India's favor is also the fact that we have hosted big tournaments in the past, whether it's the 2010 CWG or the 2023 Cricket World Cup. We have shown that we have the capacity, the potential to host big games. We have hosted various international world championships as well, whether it's boxing, whether it's wrestling in various parts of our country. So now, as per the vision of PM Narendra Modi, the time is right to get the hosting rights of the Olympic Games and the Paralympic Games, which is of course going to be a historic opportunity when we look at the connect that youth is having with the sport at this moment, and how deeply it will be rooted when we host the Olympics, especially at the grassroots level, which is, of course, the main priority for PM Narendra Modi and his vision as far as hosting the Olympic Games are concerned.
Yes. Karishma, do stay with us. We'll also tell our viewers about what happens next. Now, once India has made a formal bid and a kind of a letter of intent has been sent, what's going to happen next? But before that, let's also take our viewers through the politics that's playing out. After India made this formal bid to host the Olympics, the opposition has already started suggesting that the government should not pitch to host for these Olympics. Why is the opposition saying so? Because Congress leader Karti Chidambaram in a social media post believes that this is a vanity project. And we are going to put out his tweet on your screens. He goes on to say that this is a vanity project. We shouldn't be aiming to host the Olympics. Our legacy use of stadia is abysmal. We should learn from the bitter experience and post repercussions of Athens and Rio. It's better to invest in training our athletes and win a respectable number of medals in the next few editions. Nyamika is joining us. Nyamika, on one hand, you have the government which is sending a message that it wants to make India a sporting powerhouse. It has the capability to host the Olympics, which is going to be a global event and also will add to India's pride as a nation. And then you have leaders in the Congress party who are saying that no, we shouldn't go ahead with this plan. It is nothing but a vanity project. Do all leaders in the Congress believe or concur with what Karti Chidambaram is saying?
Well, yes, and I would also like to remind you that this is not the very first time when the senior Congress leader Karti Chidambaram has made this kind of comment. As earlier also we have seen that Karti Chidambaram had made this statement in the parliament session, in the last parliament session, where he said that our country is not a sporting country, and instead of pitching the idea of hosting Olympics in our country, it would be much better if the government would invest more in the training of the athletes, so that these athletes will be able to get more and more medals in the next Olympic Games. So that was the idea which was being pitched by the Congress leader Karti Chidambaram in the last parliament session, and this is what he is repeating once again when our country has submitted a letter of intent to host the Olympics as well as the Paralympic Games. And for that reason now this is a tweet which is being made by the Congress leader, and in which he has mentioned that it will be a vanity project, as he has once again appealed that there should be more investment upon the training of the athletes, so that they will be able to get more and more medals in the upcoming days, in the upcoming Olympic Games. And for that reason he has also mentioned the example of Greece as the example of Athens as well as Rio Olympics, in which he has mentioned that we need to learn the lessons from what has happened, the repercussions which had happened after the Olympics that have taken place in Athens and Rio. And for that reason he also mentioned it clearly that it will not be a good idea to pitch for hosting the Olympics in our country. As earlier also we have seen that how Karti Chidambaram had given this kind of statement, in which he has mentioned that it is very much needed that the sports needs to be added in our educational system as a subject for the students, so that they will be able to learn these sports from the very early age. And for that reason he said that our country is not a sporting
who's getting us details of how India expressed its intent to host the Olympics in the year 2036. Now, Karishma, the political commentary will go on. Remember, viewers, the last time a Congress leader criticized the government with the term vanity project was when last year it was the Parliament building. Jairam Ramesh back then had called India's Parliament building the Prime Minister's personal vanity project and a colossal waste of money. So anytime there is something that the government wants to showcase globally, of something that symbolizes India's ambition, India's aspiration and India's resilience, this is the kind of commentary that comes in. Let me go back to Karishma. Karishma, now that the government has sent a letter, it has expressed its intent and the Prime Minister has spoken about it multiple times, what happens next? The politics will go on, but take us through what's expected next.
Well, yes, see, there is going to be an entire process that is going to be followed as far as the International Olympic Committee is going to be concerned. In fact, it is not going to be so easy. There are going to be other countries that will be wanting to bid to host the 2036 Olympics. There can be Indonesia, there can be Qatar, there can be various other countries. Now, there will be dialogues that will happen with the International Olympic Committee. The dialogues are also divided into two stages. Now, the first step has been taken by India. Dialogue is initiated to see first who has interest in hosting Olympic Games, which country is expressing their interest in hosting Olympic Games. Once the first step is crossed, then of course there is targeted dialogue where you say that these are the confirmed bids that we have, these are the countries that are interested, and then of course more deliberations will be on. You'll also have to see infrastructure, in which country it is better, which country has the capacity to host maximum amount of sports. When we talk about Olympic Games, Sagarika, shooting is always a sport that requires a lot of space and is always away from where other sports are happening, given how much space it requires.
Correct.
So all of that comes into consideration. We've seen in Asian Games when Glasgow is going to hold, it has cut down on 10 spots. So it becomes very, very interesting to see where all these discussions are going to lead to. But yes, India has taken the first positive step in this regard and is very, very confident of getting the hosting human rights.
Also imagine the kind of planning that goes on when you make your intention clear. We are in 2024. The bid has been made for 2036, which is 12 years from now. So the government is confident that in the timing that it is bidding for, it will be in a position to take this kind of a big step towards hosting the Olympics. Now, after Karti Chidambaram calls the government's plan of hosting the Olympics a vanity project, the Bharatiya Janata Party says the opposition is doing nothing but mocking Bharat and Bharat's ambitions. Let's play that reaction coming in from BJP Shehzad Poonawala.
It seems that the Indie Alliance hates India's growth and progress story, and they are always in doubting and denial mode. That is why Karti Chidambaram is now opposing India submitting its official bid for the Olympics in 2036. His father had once mocked India's UPI story. Today, UPI is a grand success. These are the same people who doubt India's prowess, whether it's the military prowess, they will ask for proof on surgical strike. These people are the Nawabs of negativity, and they always want to keep India down. They always want to make India look bad on a global stage.
Nawabs of negativity is the counter coming in from the Bharatiya Janata Party. But Niyamika, what is Karti Chidambaram talking about? Karti Chidambaram is talking about the history of India, and one should not forget, he seems to be criticizing the Congress itself. Nobody has forgotten the Congress's legacy when it comes to hosting these kind of games. What had happened during the UPA era is not lost on anyone. So, are there other leaders too who are going to echo the same sentiment that Karti Chidambaram is currently echoing when it comes to India's ambitions to host the Olympics?
Well, as of now, there is no response which has come on the part of the Congress party, as this is the opinion which is being expressed by Karti Chidambaram himself on Twitter, in which he has mentioned that this is basically a vanity project, as he has once again raised his concern regarding this entire issue, in which he has mentioned that it would be much better if the government of India would invest more upon the training of the athletes, so that our country would be able to get more medals in the upcoming days. And that is what he had said in the last parliament session as well, as because he has mentioned it clearly that if our country would host Olympics in the upcoming days, then it would drain the resources of our country, and that's the only reason why he has also given an example of Athens as well as Rio Olympics, in which he has said that we need to set in to learn the experience from what has happened in Athens and Rio, the repercussion which had taken place after the Olympics which were being held by both of these countries. And for that reason he said that it would be much better that our country, our government should invest more upon the training of the athletes, as he has also raised this concern in the parliament session, in which he has mentioned that our resources would go in.
We have Manoj Yadav of the Samajwadi Party joining us. Good afternoon, Mr. Yadav. कांग्रेस पार्टी के कार्ति चिदम्बरम का ये मानना है कि भारत को जो ओलंपिक्स होस्ट करने का जो उन्होंने बिड किया है, भारत सरकार ने जो किया है, वो हमें नहीं करना चाहिए, वो एक वैनिटी प्रोजेक्ट है, क्योंकि देश का इतिहास, वो कहते हैं कि हमारा स्टेडियम यूज का जो इतिहास है वो बहुत ही अबिस्मल है. क्या आप भी इससे वाकिफ है, या आपको लगता है नहीं 2036 में भारत को ही ओलंपिक्स होस्ट करना चाहिए?
निश्चित तौर पर जब कॉमनवेल्थ गेम हुए भारत में, उसके बाद से मैं नहीं महसूस करता हूं कि भारत में कुछ ऐसा स्पोर्ट स्टेडियम निर्माण किया गया हो जिसपे अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर, खासकर ओलंपिक में, कोई इस तरह का आयोजन कराया जा सके. क्या सरकार सक्षम है कि वो 10-12 सालों में भारत में खेल के इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को डेवलप कर लेगी? अगर ऐसी परिस्थितियां हैं तो सरकार को कॉन्फिडेंस है, क्योंकि ओलंपिक बहुत बड़ा इवेंट होता है, पूरे दुनिया का इवेंट होता है, और भारत को अब तक एक बार भी इसका अनुभव नहीं है कराने का, लेकिन पहल तो करनी ही चाहिए. ये निश्चित तौर पे है कि ओलंपिक अगर भारत में हो तो भारत की
मनोज यादव जी, जिस कॉमनवेल्थ गेम्स की आप बात कर रहे हैं वो 2010 में इंडिया ने होस्ट किया था, और तब किसकी सरकार थी?
2010 में कॉमनवेल्थ हुआ है और उस वक्त सरकार यूपीए की थी.
हाँ जी. तो अभी जो कार्ति चिदम्बरम कह रहे हैं कि हमारा जो स्टेडियम यूज का जो हिस्ट्री है वो अबिस्मल है, वो तो अपने सरकार की बात कर रहे हैं.
नहीं, मैं बात सरकार की नहीं, मैं कह रहा हूं कि ओलंपिक गेम डिफरेंट है, और कॉमनवेल्थ डिफरेंट है,
नहीं,
एशियाड
पर आपने तो
डिफरेंट।
कॉमनवेल्थ की बात की, इसलिए आपको याद दिला दे कि आपके जो अलायंस पार्टनर है तब वो पावर में थे जब कॉमनवेल्थ गेम्स हुआ था, जिसका स्कैम हुआ था, जिसमें सुरेश कलमाडी का नाम आया था। उस टाइम पे कांग्रेस की सरकार थी, और आज अगर ये सरकार इस पे पुश दे रही है कि हमें ओलंपिक्स होस्ट करना है, आज नहीं 12 साल में, उसके लिए हम आज से तैयारी करेंगे, तो इसमें गलत क्या है?
मैं सही गलत की बात नहीं कर रहा हूं, मैं जो बात कह रहा हूं वो एक्चुअल ऑफ फैक्ट कर रहा हूं। मैं चिदम्बरम जी के किसी बयान का जवाबदेही तय करने के लिए नहीं हूं, क्योंकि वो भी विपक्ष में है और हम भी विपक्ष में हैं। सरकार अगर 12 सालों में कोई बेहतरीन आयोजन कराना चाहती तो सरकार का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर क्या है। और दूसरी सबसे महत्वपूर्ण बात जो मैं कहना चाहता हूँ, और आपके दर्शक भी इसको समझना चाहेंगे, कि जब हम मेजबानी करेंगे तो क्या हमारे परिणाम उन खेलों में हमारी प्रतिभागिता, क्योंकि जिन जिन देशों ने मेजबानी करी है वहां पे बहुत शानदार प्रदर्शन किया है उन कंट्रीज ने, चाहे फिर वो चाइना हो, चाहे अमेरिका हो, या और भी देशों ने जहां भी किया, अच्छा प्रदर्शन किया। तो क्या भारत के ओलंपिक खिलाड़ी भी तैयार हैं?
ये क्या भारत के ओलंपिक खिलाड़ी भी तैयार है? खिलाड़ी तो कहते हैं हाँ हम तैयार है। मनोज यादव जी, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया हमसे जुड़ने के लिए। सो करिश्मा, आई वांट टू टेक वन क्वेश्चन विथ यू एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम, एंड देयर इज अ पॉलिटिकल कंट्रोवर्सी दैट्स ब्रूइंग. Please take our viewers through the kind of changes that the Indian sporting infrastructure has seen in the last few years. Because here, when the Samajwadi Party spokesperson also was speaking, he reminded us of 2010 Commonwealth Games. But in the last few years, what are the steps that the Indian government has taken to improve and to, make the Indian sporting infrastructure world-class level?
Well, yes, absolutely. A lot of steps have been taken. There are various national center for excellence as far as India's infrastructure is concerned. There are various sporting stadiums which are of international standard as far as Olympic Games or hosting of big tournaments is concerned. And also, let's understand, we have not hosted Olympics before, but we have hosted big international tournaments before, whether it is cricket, whether it is, the boxing world championships. We have the KD Jadhav Indoor Stadium here in New Delhi. You have the Firozshah Kotla here in New Delhi. You have an entire complex in, Gujarat when we talk about hosting the Olympic Games. So, of course, there is a lot of infrastructure. And remember, we have 12 years time. The reason why this bid is done so early is because when you put in your bid, you are supposed to show them the infrastructure, which doesn't mean that everything needs to be ready. But there needs to be a basis, there needs to be a foundation which will help convince the International Olympic Committee that yes, they have the infrastructure and they are going to be very, very certain that it is going to be completed well within time to the international standards, to the acceptable standards of the IOC to host the Olympic Games.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Karishma, for putting that into perspective. Political fight has broken out over India's bid to host the Olympics in the year 2036. Thank you, Nyamika and Karishma, for joining us. Shifting focus